What is up, everybody? Welcome back here to the program. Couple special weeks here in a row. As obviously last week, the Voracek interview kind of played out, and but we're back to live, and got Kicking It With Knuble coming up here in a minute. But a little bit of a special episode today, as the Flyers home opener is tonight, and I will be there. So obviously won't be able to go at my normal time, and obviously the game has got moved up to 6 tonight as well. But let's bring in Mike now. Got a lot to talk about. Flyers are 1-1 on the season. There's definitely some things that can carry over into tonight's game, and just kind of everything so far. So here is Mike now. Hey, Mike.
Hi, Chris. How are you?
Good, Mike. How are you?
Good.
Have you gotten a chance to watch any of the games so far?
I watched some of the Ottawa game on Saturday in the first period there.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of college football on. There was a lot of stuff to watch, but
there you
I was kind of flipping back and forth a little bit. Kind of watching the first period. Ottawa, that's their home opener, right? You were just alluding to that. That game is a home opener. Ottawa, I always found kind of a difficult place to play, those little afternoon starts, and certainly, they have a tendency to get out on top of teams in the first period, and certainly looked like that. And their veterans did a nice job. Chikrin had a couple goals there, and Jake Sanderson too, have a nice give and go with Tarasenko, and then Tarasenko over to Chikrin for a one-timer. So I felt they were kind of starting to steamroll. That's a good veteran team. Ottawa's a good team. With Tkachuk and Claude still doing a lot of good stuff, and
right.
Jake Sanderson and Jeff Chikrin are two great young defensemen, and so they're a lot to handle. But I feel like got going there in the first period, and then give up one late at the second period. Give one really up really late in that period. That's just a backbreaker there. A little bit. Going to third, but it turns into 4-2, right? So
right, exactly. Yeah, with 5 seconds left. Unfortunately, it feels like, Mike, for at least the first 2 games of the season, it felt like the first game was a game that the Flyers want to play for all the season. You know what I mean? They outshoot their opponent. They generate a good chunk of scoring chances. They had 37 shots on net. Just a lot of good things that you want to do to start a season. And then the second game against Ottawa was felt like a game from last year, where I was like, they were playing at their worst. Obviously last year, this, they had a lot of bad second periods. That was one of them. And again, you're 100% right. I mean, that goal at the end was just so deflating, because it was 3-1. You were kind of getting peppered for most of the period. You get one back right away. Cam York scores, and it's like, okay, we're still in this one. And then they score with 5 seconds left on a routine type of play from Sanheim, and just it felt like for most of that game, like, that the Flyers just couldn't. I don't know what it was, but it felt like they lost a lot of puck battles. I mean, again, starting the year on the road, you're playing in a lot of home openers. And obviously, the Flyers they have their home opener tonight. But again, they're 1-1 on the season. Travis Konecny's got 3 goals in 2 games. Emil Andre made his NHL debut. So I think there's a lot of things to kind of look at. One of the things that I wanted to start off, Mike, was some comments the other day from Ivan Provorov in Columbus, and I was curious kind of what your thoughts were on this, because obviously Provorov has been, I guess, a little controversial when you look at him and his time here. One of the things that he said on going into Thursday was, how he can kind of benefit from a fresh start was the question. And he said, overall, the last 3 years, the way the team played over there, it's not really my game. It was a lot of rimming, throwing the puck away. For a player, I consider myself, I can make plays and contribute and play with the puck. That was only felt like it was making my game worse. And now to be on a team that can make plays and it is allowed to make plays, it's been really refreshing, and I can actually play my game. You got any thoughts on that right there from Provorov?
Well, you always have to take a little bit of this with a grain of salt, and there's players speak a little more freely these days, and there's certain things, like, it's kind of airing some dirty laundry a little bit, and whether you think that stuff, it's I mean, at the end of the day, what's the harm there? Like, he's not. That's a little bit different to the media. As the players, they speak to what they're thinking a little bit, and then versus kind of saying, well, it just didn't work out for me. It didn't work out for them. Tough time for both of us. I'm happy to have a new start.
Right.
Guys come with a little more heart and a little more depth in that, and that's all right. Can you say, if that's the way you felt, that's the way you felt, and I think for a guy that was really, I think felt to be the cornerstone guy there for a long time. And that this might be a defenseman we're going to have here for 15 years. Certainly there was a falling out on both sides, and certainly as a player, you get somewhere else and you're like, well, it wasn't good for me there either. And blah, 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 and it's kind of the way it goes these days. And of course, somebody's going to ask him that question because it's certainly, obviously because they're playing so quickly in the season. And, somebody's going to do that and whatever. But, I don't know. It's as a player, feeling, that he's got a new start and, they love to say, oh, I wasn't allowed to do this. I wasn't allowed to do that. No, it's kind of, no, you're allowed to be the player you can be, but just, doing it the right way. And if you can't conform to that, it gets really hard, So
right.
It's fine. I mean, I really don't. These days, there's so much out there. It's just kind of like another quote that somebody says. It's not. I don't know if there's such thing as bulletin board material anymore.
Right? Yeah.
So much that everybody does all the time. It's hard to figure something out. But obviously, it didn't work out for him, and it's not going to be an ongoing story. He didn't want to interview about it. It's probably done.
No. Yeah, exactly. And honestly, more of the reason why I asked you about it is because A, we didn't talk last week, and B, from kind of transitioning from Provorov, the next guy that can do that is Sanheim. I mean, he has a really key chance here to be that type of player. I think Sanheim's had a couple of good games so far. I thought he was really good in Columbus. Through, I believe it was the first game, he had 19 minutes of ice time through first two periods. And you're like, okay, they're kind of starting to trust him a little bit. And again, that's not saying they didn't before, but also you have to play a factor into that. Rasmus Ristolainen is on IR right now. So obviously, there's going to be a little bit of a mix in pairs, but any thoughts on Sanheim so far, Mike?
Well, I mean, obviously, I think, I was looking at the numbers there. I mean, I think he played 26 minutes and 24 minutes, they're obviously counting on him to I'm no scientist, but that seems like the average is 25, right? So he's getting a ton of ice time. And, we talked about earlier at the end of the second period there, and, you can't get your pocket picked with 5 seconds left, in the period. Yeah. And if you are that 25-minute guy, that's just bang that thing out. You don't have to make a play or hang on to it. And that's just like, living to fight another day. And especially getting young players to understand how important the end of that period is, because it was nothing, it was a nothing play up the sideboards. And you have to know who's on the ice. You have Claude Giroux, who's a really, really crafty player, probably, maybe Kachuk's out there with him, but it's like, or I don't even know who scored the goal, but it was like,
it was Kachuk. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's a huge moment in the time. Young players, part of that is making the team as a young player and being an everyday player. And then the next part for young players is being that everyday player that's getting that overabundance of ice time and learning how to play in those situations. That gets me back to the Chris Prongers, and the Darian Hatchers and Nick Lidstrom's, who just log so much ice time night after night for 80 games. They're 26, 28 minutes a night. And they learn real fast. You cannot have those little mistakes happen. You live to fight another day. At the end of the period, you don't have to make a play there. Just chip the puck out. Get out of the period 3-2. That's huge. So, I'm sure that point's been made to him. Hey, listen, like when it gets down to it, you know who's on the ice, know how much time's on the clock, and get the puck out.
Right.
So, things to learn. But, again, overall, I mean, I guess it's not a bad start for him at all. But again, there's from the coaching side, there's always going to be something.
Right. Exactly. And I think it's perfect because, for him, and I really like this was that he owned it post game. He was like, he's like, that play right there, I have to just get it off the wall and out. And that's the thing. I mean, it's little things like that have kind of killed this team these past couple of years, where they're in a spot where it could be a 1-goal game going into third, and then with 5 seconds left, it's not. And it's little things like that because again, we've said this before, Mike. They don't have the offense like, well, I guess when if they're not healthy, because Kateri might not play tonight. I'm not sure what's going to happen there, but when they're healthy, they're obviously better. But when they just don't have the offense to compete in games where they just, force themselves with so many mistakes. And same thing with the D. I mean, like, their defense is not good enough to make turnovers like that, especially in late situations. So, as for the first couple games, it's been okay. Travis Konecny's been hot. He's got 3 goals in 2 games. The one was an empty netter, but still, you take those. Mike, does it feel like that? Like I'm curious what you think about this, because I said this the other night on one of the streams that I was doing. I genuinely think that he can get 40 goals. Obviously, he's got a pretty good start. He's 37 in 80 games. It's definitely doable. But for TK, the way that he's just been playing these past couple of seasons, obviously last year, and then kind of continuing it into this year. Any thoughts on just his game so far, and the possibility of him getting 40 goals, which would be the first time since I believe your teammate Jeff Carter did it in 08-09.
Well, he seems, I mean, how many years has he been there now? 3 or 4, right?
TK, this is 7, I think.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah. All right. So 7. There you go. He's not a kid anymore, right? And you always kind of, I think, kind of thinking about him. That's why I asked. I said 3 or 4 years. He's not. He's 7.
Right.
Like, he's kind of a veteran, right? But I do think he seems to be a guy early on here that's stirring the drink. He's a straw stirring the drink here, and he typically plays with a lot of pace, some energy. He's not scared to F you with guys and get into it physically a little bit. So I think it's a guy that, is maybe the heartbeat a little bit of this team right now, you have Atkinson and Coots, and they're kind of older guys, but, if Coots is going to kind of be in and out with injuries, and Atkinson's missed a big chunk of time, it's kind of those guys who are that 26 to, 30 age, 26 to 29 age that seem to be the lifeblood of the team. And you can't necessarily ask the young guys, the Brinks and the Andres and those guys to do, the Yorks to be that. It's those kind of guys in that middle age group that need to do that, And
right.
So up front, he seems to be a bit of a catalyst right now, and he's rewarded. Torts rewards him with a chance to be on the ice at the end, and those are the perks. So for his hard work and Torts liking the way he plays, you get that little reward of ice time at the end of the game, and that's how you might get to 40. You pop in 3 or 4 empty netters, but you're not just given that chance because Torch thinks you got a chance to get 40. He's out there. He's putting you out there because you can play.
Yeah.
Great responsibility at the end of the game, and then you get the bonus at the end.
Exactly. Yeah. No. And that's the thing. He's reliable. I mean, he's been that type of guy where it's like, okay, yeah, he's turning into that type of player. Like, I don't know if people will agree with that, because it's like he's been in the league so long and all that stuff. But in my eyes, I think he's turning into one of those guys that you can always rely on. As for Vancouver, Mike, they are 2-0. They blew out Edmonton in the first game of the year, 8-1 in their home opener, which was crazy to see. And then they had a 4-3 win against Oilers on Saturday night on Hockey Night in Canada. They've taken 11 penalties in 2 games. The last game they got outshot 40-16, and they won 4-3. So it's kind of showing you that their goaltending's been pretty good, and Edmonton struggled a little bit in that to start the year. One of the things with the Flyers last game, as you kind of alluded to as well, was faceoffs. They were, I believe, 44% or 45% in the game in Columbus, and they were 38% last game. It's one of the areas that's going to take some time, I guess, for them to get back into the rhythm of doing better, and with Couturier and everything else. And they're just not as great at draws as they used to be. They've lost so many centers these past couple of years, and Giroux and Hayes, and then Coots obviously being injured. Lawton's more of a winger now, so that's obviously changed. But any thoughts on just Vancouver and the matchup tonight?
Well, yeah. Obviously, Vancouver is come out of the gate, beating Edmonton twice, who's like kind of a perennial favorite in the West.
Cup favorite, yeah.
Stars, they seem to be a favorite every year. So off to a good start for them. They got to be feeling pretty good, and then, but Talk is probably not the type of coach to get real high on his group being, having a 2-0 start, and like the game for 8-1, but then turn around the next day and again be outshot and still pull it out. Still a positive thing, for the coaching staff, but obviously it's a trend that occurred for a certain reason, and maybe if you feel like you won 8 night the previous night, and then kind of let down the next day and make it a lot harder on yourself. So, but obviously you get teams coming across the country. First game probably of an East Coast swing out here. A lot of offense there, right? There's some guys there with points already, and obviously they've scored 10 goals in 2 games, and you gotta have that offense. And I mean, we talked about it earlier. It's like you keep these games to 2 goals against, you got a real good chance you start getting above 3, and it's going to be hard for Philly to match the offense with Vancouver, and and you got Quinn Hughes on the back end flying around, and some real talented forwards up front. So it'll be, I mean, you get that little extra kick on home opener, and that the players want to put out a good show and have that little extra hop in their step. Today, and it's not somebody else's home opener, right? You're playing. You played it too. Now it's your home opener, so hopefully you can use that to their advantage tonight.
Right, exactly. No, and it's, I agree with you. I think with the way that you look at Vancouver, they're a team that they need to have a good start this year. They need to have a good season to begin with. But I think Tocchet, him coming in and things like that last year, it just seems like a fresh start for them, and an 8-1 win that kind of just felt like the overblow of last season for them, just all collided into that one game. And then, as you said, they won a tight one in Edmonton on Saturday night. But one of the things with Vancouver, again, they've taken 11 penalties in 2 games. The Flyers, though, they're 1 for 6 on the power play. I think this is kind of what you're alluding to, is that if they're not gonna score a lot 5-on-5, the power play is going to have to help. They gave up 3 power play goals against Ottawa on 5 penalties. They're 1 for 6 on their power play the other night. Not the best start. They did have a power play goal. The ones in Columbus were kind of offsetting. They didn't really have a full 2-minute power play. It was more like a minute and a half. I think the other one was like close to around a minute or something. It was more 4-on-4, and then the Flyers had a little bit extra with the man advantage. But and again, I think with the lineup tonight, if Coots plays, I think it's better. And I'm curious in your opinion, Mike, where do you see this? Because if you're the Flyers and you're Couturier, I mean, yesterday, again, they haven't played since Saturday, so they're off Sunday. They actually did a public skate yesterday at Wells Fargo Center for all the fans to come out. But outside of that, is the Coots thing in your mind, is that just like, give him the extra off day, or could that be more, do you think? And if so, is he in your lineup tonight, even though it's only game 3 and maybe they want to kind of see what's kind of going on and maybe try to just rest him a little bit as much as possible?
Yeah, it's probably a bit of proceed with caution, hope,
yeah.
Right? So you get through Thursday, Saturday games and see how you're feeling, take a real assessment of your body. And, it's maybe a little bit of a, proceeding with caution. Now, you're talking 2 games into the season. Well, I played with guys, and I remember even our time, in Philadelphia when we had Peter Forsberg and he went through ankle stuff, and it was like this big, is he or isn't he playing tonight? Even at 4:00 at the rink, you're coming in. Well, he might play tonight. You don't know till 5 p.m. that evening if he's playing or not. It does a lot, kind of messes with the psyche of the team, and it's super. Yeah. You're almost better off just declaring I'm not out. You know what I mean? And I know you do that sometimes. You want to like kind of string it along, but even internally, if you let the guys know, though you don't announce it publicly, you can kind of wrap your brain around it. But if Coots isn't out there, certainly it messes with the continuity of power plays, and messes with continuity of penalty kill.
Right.
And he's obviously looking at his numbers, he played 20 minutes each night, so obviously they're not holding him back.
Right. Exactly. And why would they?
Yeah. So I mean, it might be at some point where they're like, hey, listen, you're going to do either just game day skates, or you're not going to practice very much at the beginning here, or we're going to play you 2 and rest you 1.
Yeah.
Oh, we might just be working on a schedule here. Here's kind of the first month. You're going to play this game, not this game, this game, whatever's better sometimes for travel. So whatever they can do to kind of get him through this and help him get his legs under him might be
right.
But it can become the elephant in the room as you get going.
Right, exactly. And I think it's interesting with the travel part of it. Like, maybe he could have just been jet lagged. I mean, he hasn't done this in like a year and a half. I mean, It's been close to, I think it was 500 something days where, he last was with the team. So it's interesting. I think there's a lot of things here. Just Just one last thing here for you, Mike. The second periods. Obviously last year they were not good at second periods at all. They were really bad in goals, everything. Just about every stat that you could play in a period, the Flyers were bad in the second. When you look at them again, it was a good second period in Columbus, not so great in Ottawa. They got outshot for a lot of it. I don't think they had a shot for close to 14 minutes. I'm just curious, for you and when you played, were you ever on a team that maybe struggled in a specific period or anything like that, where just like you guys couldn't get your legs in? And what does that stem from? Just like having that bad of a period.
It's funny because it probably felt like every other year, every team I played on had a bad second period.
Really?
It's like, if we were always having a bad second period, who else is having a good one? Because it felt like everybody's complaining about their second period. Like, I don't know who's having a good one then.
Right.
But some teams seem to be a little bit more finishers and like to chase the game. And, I guess the first period is the first period. You kind of come out and you're fresh. And then, second period, you kind of settle in and maybe based on how you think the first period went. I don't know. A lot of times, there's always a couple goals scored every year because of bad changes. That always seems to manifest itself. With the D not, getting the puck all the way deep, or forward not getting the puck all the way deep, and the D trying to change and breaks the other way, which is kind of the intent of switching sides to create a little more like that. Or it's kind of a mental thing, of getting into the game and then having that break and just kind of being like settling into the game too much instead of pushing, right? And
right.
Kind of shift into maybe a third gear and kind of wait and see how the second period goes. And kind of, okay, we're either going to defend in the third or we're going to have to fight in the third. So we'll see how the second period goes, right? It kind of feels like too early to try and really push and finish a team off for the night, but
right.
It's kind of like this weird time, it's kind of like, I don't know, the third chorus in a song, where you're kind of like, you're just killing time right here a little bit. You come out of the gate and see what happens, then it's kind of, you have this middle frame, and then you try to shorten the game just to the third period and be like, okay, here's our game here. Here's the meat of the game, the last 20 minutes. Right, and try and finish it off. So,
right,
I don't know, it's some sort of complacency lull that creeps in, and I mean it's a lot of teams. Now you're 2 games into a season, and now the Flyers that was last year, and this is this year, and and what can you can work on your changes. You can talk about changing more effectively, like leaving a winger there on the far side just to let the other guys change, and then work on the smoothness of that, the continuity of just even a simple line change and not getting beat up the ice quick, but. A lot of times it's hard to maintain forecheck pressure, with a long way to the bench and a long way back into the zone. And so, teams tend to come at you a little bit more. They get to wheel and deal and come out of their own zone a little quicker. But I don't know, part of it's probably mental too. Like I said, just kind of killing this time and then end here. Either we're going to defend hard or push to score.
Right. No, exactly. So it'll be interesting. I think there's a lot of little things that can kind of play into it, obviously, as you alluded to. Mike, one nice thing here. Have you seen any of the pictures of the new locker room?
Yeah, I didn't even know what I was looking at. I was like, what is that? I was like, is that Voorhees? And I'm like,
yeah, that's
Voorhees. And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, I just didn't pick up, I don't know. I didn't really see any progress pictures.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Out there. It kind of surprised me. All of a sudden it's done, and I read about the article, $400 million, and they were doing more around. So now I'm really interested to get back there and see what they've done. It sounds like the underneath where the family lounge used to be.
Mm-hmm.
I did hear some grumblings, I think, from the alumni that we had an alumni lounge down there, and it might have got reshaped or repurposed.
Okay.
Up to a box somewhere or something. So I don't know. These are things you got to kind of see for yourself, but it's certainly exciting. Yeah. That place, it served its purpose and it served its time. It was totally functional, but there's way cooler stuff you can do. And obviously with the visiting rooms, Villanova being in there, the Sixers being in there.
There's a lot in there.
It's just these buildings all have to keep up with each other and for their concerts and for try and get all kinds of extra events there. They got to be sharp buildings. So it's great to see. I know the players are super lucky to have it.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, because I think the Flyers had that locker room for 20 years in that setup.
Even the pictures I saw on Twitter last year was the same locker room. I mean,
right. From when you played, right?
Where I sat, but it you had to bust out a lot of walls and stuff like that. I mean, we always had a sauna. We always had the hot and cold tub and that, so it wasn't horrible in that respect,
Right.
But, everybody's got to do a little more flash now, I guess, a little more pop. Building owners, building managers, they got to keep their buildings looking sharp. So
yeah. Are you a fan of the logo on the ceiling?
I mean, that's a trend. Everybody has it now, right? So
Yeah.
the place is the one on the ground that everybody used to walk on, right? So it's kind of that trend. It gives you cool lighting and it adds a little pop and a little flair. And the round, you know, you notice the elliptical shape,
Yeah.
you know, so you can see everybody in the room easier. Flyers room was awkward because it was like everybody was kind of down on maybe three different benches. You had to like look really far ahead to see somebody down. Now you can just kind of move your eyes around, see the whole lot, see everybody in the room, and it's psychological trend that everybody's doing. You know, all the colleges do it. All the pro teams are getting those rounds. So, you know, elliptical rooms so everybody can see everybody easier.
Right.
So.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, it looks awesome. I mean, like the logo and that and all that. Yeah, it looks sick. But yeah, Mike, that's all I got for you, man. Thank you again as always. We'll pick this up next week. All right.
But I'm looking forward to watching the game. I like the 6 p.m. start with some of this ESPN Plus. I kind of like ESPN Plus. I kind of don't like it, but I'm kind of going more toward ESPN Plus. I like what they've done with some of the
I'm liking it too because I like that I can flick off of something and go back to another one. And the one thing I do is the multicast. I'll put like 3 games on at one time.
Oh yeah. They all have that YouTube TV.
Yeah.
All that. I haven't tried that yet, man. I'm just like I get something on.
It's hard. I mean, again, like, you know, we only have 2 eyeballs, so it's kind of hard to look at everything. But it's cool. But yeah, no, so the 6 start is sweet because the Phillies are in the championship series.
Yeah, I'm watching that too. Yeah,
and then there's soccer at the link tonight where the Eagles play. So there's gonna be a ton of traffic down there.
Is it international friendly or something?
I think so. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
That's the best time of year. That parking lot this time of year. I mean, it's great, man. You get baseball going, to football and hockey, and I think there's guys that don't leave that parking lot for like 3 days straight. I always say that. By the time you get football, baseball going, they don't leave, man. They just spend the night in their car, I think.
Exactly. I mean, there's so much to do down there. And it's funny, probably since the last time you were here, they built a casino like right around the corner.
Oh, yeah.
So it's there's so much stuff down there.
There used to be the old Holiday Inn or whatever that was over there.
Yeah. Yep. Mm-hmm.
Stayed there at the casino. It's nice. The alumni did something there, so we stayed there.
Nice. Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right, Mike. Well, that's all I got for you. I'll talk to you next week. All right.
Hey, buddy. Thank you.
All right. See you, Mike. There he is, Mike Knuble, Kicking It With Knuble. Such a nice dude, man. I love doing it with Mike. Mr. Twister, I agree, brother. I need to see more from Tippett and Frost. I was old enough to bet, I'd put some money on Morgan Frost tonight. I don't know why. I just have that feeling that Frost is going to come out and score. But yeah, I mean, it's going to be interesting. I think there's a lot of stuff that can play into tonight. There's a lot of little things, that I think for just the Flyers and kind of where they're at, there's little things that you can kind of do. But that's, just, the call line is open. Just to kind of reiterate that, 267-939-1216. Hit the line if you got any questions or anything like that. It should be interesting. I think there's a lot of things with the team and kind of where the Flyers are at right now, and 1-1. Some things I'd like to see improve so far. I mean, obviously the power play will be nice to kind of get going. I know, man. There's so much of that. I mean, look, I'm not worried about any of it. I just like to see some guys get going. You know what I mean? Like, I'm hoping for Frost to get some points early and Tippett. I mean, it just everybody get their cookies early and then just have just a good start to the year and kind of just see where it goes. It'll be interesting. So we'll see. I think for the Flyers right now, there's a lot of little things that can kind of play into it, but it'll be interesting for sure. I think that's all I got, ladies and gentlemen. Thanks everybody again for all the support as always. Again, I got so much content coming out and recording Flyers warm up in a little bit for the pregame show tonight. Obviously, post-game recap video will be done as well. All that stuff. I got some watch parties coming up in the beginning of November, the next couple for the year. We've got so much content planned here at Maher Media. There's a lot of stuff coming. Thanks everybody again, seriously, for all the support as always. And I'll talk to you guys all again soon. See you guys.